Module 3C, the Practice of Psychometry. The word psychometry was, apparently, coined in 1842, the concept being that all things energetically emanate. In other words, inanimate objects energetically absorb impressions and store information, and this information can be accessed by the reader of that object to one degree or another. Now, psychometry has been used by experienced readers for important reasons, such as in assisting with police investigations. They might tune in to items of clothing, for example, or objects of particular interest. It isn't possible to completely and irrefutably solve a case purely by engaging in psychometry, but it can be an extremely helpful additional source of information. Not all police forces are open to any form of psychic assistance, including psychometry, but some definitely are. But it isn't just inanimate objects that have hidden secrets. The natural world also has a huge amount to offer those who wish to explore and strengthen their intuitive senses through the practice of psychometry, which is why I'm going to talk about tree hugging a bit later on. I myself have engaged in this form of psychic reading on many occasions, and it is always proved to be of huge interest to the recipients. As part of the live performances I used to give, I would leave the room whilst an assistant invited the audience to place personal items on a tray. There were only ever supposed to be a handful of offerings, but people would continue to throw stuff on there even as the assistant was trying to escape. Anyway, the process itself is fairly simple. Hold the item in question, close your eyes, and relax. The more practiced you become at tuning in, as outlined in previous modules, the easier it will be to open the channel of communication between you and the object. You aren't looking for something specific. You are open to whatever your intuitive mind is able to reveal. It might be a sudden sense. It might be a still frame image. It might be a scene. It might even be a sound. Have pen and paper close by so that you can make a note of your impressions. Even the smallest detail is important. You might not understand what it means, especially if the item is a property of another person, but they probably will. We have no way of measuring what has been energetically recorded by any object, or, in some cases, how old the stored information actually is. I've included this exercise purely as a means of getting your intuitive juices flowing, and because it is easy to understand and fun to do. If you are new to the practice of psychometry, it might be better to start by reading an item such as a pebble from the beach, or a shell, or a nice feather. You will not be able to verify any of the impressions produced by the item, but that doesn't matter. It is the practice that counts. And it is another way of confirming how you receive information, intuitively speaking. I have, while standing on the beach with a pebble in my closed hand, surreptitiously reading it, clairvoyantly witnessed tons of water casting downwards and huge chunks of rock falling into the sea. And I have heard a strong whistling wind. I've seen shades of the colour blue and felt the pressure that must have been at some point applied to the pebble before it became a pebble. Every item will have its own little story to tell, even if it is a single image, a feeling, or a sound. You could, whilst out walking, gather a collection of items from the natural world, and even include items that have been dropped by someone else, such as part of a keyring. It's odd what we can find lying around. A coin would be an interesting item too. Of course, you might not like the idea of picking up discarded items, but if you aren't too fussed, it opens up the possibilities. Now, living, growing things such as trees definitely have their own personality. I have hugged a number of trees, though always when no one else is around, for obvious reasons. And I've been touched by what I have felt. One tree's resonance was calm, solid, and strong, which felt pleasant and comforting, like an old friend. But another felt vulnerable, which caused me to feel sad. And so I gave it an extra big hug. Maybe they're not so different to us in some ways. In terms of reading inanimate objects, a fun and effective exercise would be to recruit a few friends and invite them to each bring an item that others aren't already familiar with. It could even be something that belongs to someone close to them. Each one of you will need paper and a pen because you are going to individually tune into each item for as long as it takes before making notes about your impressions. Then, you will all share with the group what you have written, asking for feedback from the supplier of the items. Some will feel anxious and block their own intuitive flow, others will pick up a little, and one or two will shock themselves. Anything can be read using psychometry, including furniture, ornaments, clothes, jewellery, even a pencil, especially if it is being well used. The world is your oyster, as they say. The following modules are tarot related. I demonstrate how I myself intuitively read the cards using 3 different decks.